Hey guys, how are you? And welcome back to my channel. On today's video, I wanted to do a different video. I don't know how well this video is gonna go because I recently posted my productivity, the working from home type of video, and that only had about 100 views, and it took about 1 week to get 100 views. So it wasn't a successful video, and today I want to do something different. I want to keep trying things out from time to time and see how you guys like it, because I don't want you guys not to know me, not to get to know me, because I do makeup. I'm an image consultant and I'm a makeup artist, but it's not all that I am. And maybe since I want to know you guys, then you will want to know me back. So today's video is going to be a recount of the books that I've read during this 2020 weird ass year. So without further ado, if you want to see the books that I've read so far this year, then just keep on watching. One of my goals this year is to read at least 20 books, or my main goal, my successful goal when it comes to reading is reading 40 books this year. I love to read and I love to hear books in Audible, and I think it's a wonderful thing. If I buy them on Kindle or Audible. I don't purchase real books anymore because a while ago when they first released the Kindle, I just wanted to support the system of not wasting that much paper, and Kindle, it's a great device. I purchased it and then I lost it on an airplane. I almost died, but it's okay, I survived, and at one point in my life I want to repurchase it. So right now I read on my phone or on my laptop or whatever, but I read almost every single day. I haven't read in a week because I've been behind on work, but I've read so far this year 17 books. So I'm almost about to reach my minimum goal, and one of the things that has helped me a lot to accomplish this is that I have a habit tracker that's related to reading. So I have to read at least 20 minutes a day. I always read a little bit more than that because I get caught up and I get like drawn to a book, and I don't want to leave it, and I don't want to just stop reading it, and I read it like a crazy person. The first month of the year, on January, I read 2 books. And one of the things that has been helping me to read more is the Reese Witherspoon Hello Sunshine book club. I love that book club because the first day of the month, they release the book of the book club for that month. It just helps me because I'm a Twilight fan. So I used to read all Twilight books, and then books sort of the same, like love story with science fiction, or love story with angels, demons, vampires, stuff like that, fairies. I was into that all the time, and I'm still into that. I love that. My favorite books are definitely that genre. But since I started following the Reese's Witherspoon book club, then that opened up my mind because I promised myself that I was going to read every single book that they recommended. So every time they release a book in the book club, then I get to read it, and I get to read something that I wouldn't normally choose for myself. And that feels refreshing, and it feels amazing. So I'm gonna tell you the books in the order that I read them. So in January, I read Conviction by Dennis Mina. And I don't know if I'm pronouncing the names right, by the way. And then I read The Giver of Stars by Jojo Moyes. And Conviction was really nice, and it was sort of funny. And it's about a person that's really, truly depressed. And then she's listening to a podcast, and then she finds out that it's about a murder something podcast. And she finds out that it's something that's related to her and something that happened to her ages ago. And then because of her circumstances, she gets together with this guy that has some self-image issues and some issues with eating and whatnot, some kind of anorexia. And then they get together, and it's like the weirdest, worst couple ever. They're not together, but they're together throughout the entire book. And it's about how they try to uncover this mystery and how they get involved in some crazy stuff. And then The Giver of Stars is about a librarian, and It's about the South, and it's just beautiful. I don't want to spoil that, but that one so far is a favorite from the year. And the way it's written, the accents and stuff. I'm Colombian, so it for me it's wonderful to get to tap into different accents and to read them and to just be able to imagine them, since I haven't been to every place in the US, and I've read accents and I've heard accents in movies, but I haven't actually experienced them. And when I'm reading a book, I'm actually the character in the book that's reading the book, and it's just amazing. I think Jojo Moyes she's a great writer, so I would highly recommend The Giver of Stars. And they are a movable or a portable library, and they go to remote places. There's racism, and it's a hard book, but it's a beautiful book, and it's where cultures meet, because there's an English woman and then her husband doesn't truly love her, and then they're having issues with having intimate relationships. And then there's this girl that she's beautiful, she's smart, and she also has commitment issues, and her father was just a person that wasn't wanted in town because he was violent and stuff. And then she has the perfect relationship in a way, but she doesn't want any commitments. And it's about the library and how these women were taking books to everyone that couldn't really, some of them didn't know how to read, and some of them wouldn't be able to get books otherwise. So it's a really beautiful story, and if you like to read and you want to have some of the background that's probably real from librarians at one point in time, then you will really love the book. Then I finished reading the Dexter series, or the saga. It's the Dexter by Design, Dexter is Delicious, Double Dexter, Dexter's Final Cut, and those four I read in February. And then in March I read the last one, which is Dexter is Dead by Jeff Lindsay. I love them. If you don't like to get into the mind of a killer and in a funny way and a dark mood but funny anyway type of book, then you will not like this. If you like the series, then you're sort of used to it, but this is way less human than the series. The series, Dexter sort of grows into a human being, and in the book, Dexter is always, he's just a killer with a code, but the way you see it and the way you put things into, you get into his position and then you laugh a lot because it's a lot of things do not make sense to you, but when you're reading stuff, like I said, I go into the character, so I know that I'm sort of the killer in that way, and I sort of don't understand why people are mad about me not getting their feelings and stuff. And the way he describes stuff, he's ironic, he's dark, he's perfect. The character is perfect. You will fall in love with him, but there are some details that are strong, so if you don't like that type of thing, then you shouldn't read them. But if you like murder type of books, then this is nice, and I think it's a easy to read type of book. I ate them basically 4 in 1 month, and right up when the month was about to end, I grabbed the last one and finished it in March. So I would highly recommend them. Then The Scent Keeper by Erica Bauermeister. I think that's the way you pronounce her name. That was a recommendation from the Reese's Book Club, and that book made me cry so hard. It was so emotional for me. It's about a girl that's raised on an island, and she thinks her dad and her are the only two humans basically in the whole wide world. And her dad, it's a scientist, and he created this machine that preserves scents. And then he says that the scents, when you burn them or put them into a little machine, I don't even remember the exact device, they would give you a memory back. And it was sort of like taking pictures with scents. And then something failed and something went wrong with his life. Somebody betrayed him, and then he went away with his daughter when she was really little. So the only thing she knew was her dad, but her dad was already getting depressed, and He was just lonely and sad, and he would always tell her stories, beautiful stories about sirens and stuff like this. And she grew up with those stories until she lost her dad, and then until she found other people. And it's a sad story, but it's also a love story with her and her dad and the way he loved her. And then I have a close relationship with my dad. My dad is my favorite guy in the entire world. He just adores me. I'm his only daughter, but he just, it's like we're in love, my dad and I. So when I read this book, it just, I think I will purchase the actual book, because it's something that I wish I had it in Spanish to give to my dad for him to read. And it's so emotional for me. And it's something that if you don't truly have a connection with your dad, because he has a love story also, but if you don't have a connection with your dad, then you wouldn't know it. And then it hit a few details that are too personal to share when I read the book. And it's just beautiful. It's just beautiful. You need to read that, because the story in itself, the way it's written, it will catch you. It will trap you. It did it for me. So that was my first. When I said I love The Giver of Stars, I could give that one 4 stars, and then this one has 10. It was wonderful for me. The 9th book I read was The Jet Setters by Amanda Ward. This was a light book for me. It was a light reading. It was just something that it made me laugh real hard because of the dysfunctional family issues and people that do not talk about their issues, and the sisters and brothers and how they handle the relationships, how they have all around them, but they do not talk about it, and they do not know anything about the other, and they think the other one is happy, and they think that everything is perfect on the other side. Something's greener on the other side, but there's crap everywhere. And then the mom, she's also a character, and then every chapter is how you see things from each of their eyes. So it's each of the characters' perspective every chapter. And it was nice. It was a good read. And if you have a dysfunctional family, then you get the book completely and you laugh. But it's not a wonderful book. It's not a book that I would go back to and read again. And then The Scent Keeper I would read again, for sure. After The Jet Setters, I read my favorite book so far this year, and it's The Two Lives of Lydia Bird. That book was written by Josie Silver, and she wrote a book last year that I also love. It was called One Day in December, but this one is better by far. And it was just the type of book that makes you fall in love and get a heartbreak all throughout the book. How it starts is that she has a fiance. It's her birthday. He wants to pick up his best friend to take him to her birthday, and then she's upset with him because he's running late, and then he gets into a car accident and dies. That's how the book starts. So it's not something that you wouldn't read. And then she is having a tough time because that's the love of her life. And then she starts to take pills that the doctor prescribed for her to sleep because she's not sleeping. And then every time she takes one of these pills, she sees him, and he's actually in a parallel universe where he didn't die. So you would imagine how tough it must be, because like I said, I get into these books. The person you loved actually died, and you have a magic pill basically to take you to them, but then you're missing out on your actual life. So maybe the other person, the other Lydia on this case, she's with him. She's living her life. But here, every time you wake up in that universe, you're still in her life because you're still in her body in that life, even though she's you or whatever. But then you're missing out on this one because you have to be asleep on this one to be on the other side. So it gives her time to say goodbye. It gives her time to be with him. It gives her time to just grieve with him. and to not grieve when she needs to grieve in other times. And it gives her time to see the perspective of the guy's friend that was with him when he died and that he survived. It's just a heartbreaking book, but those are my favorite. Those are my favorite because truly love is not that way. Love shouldn't be painful, but when we grow up with this sense that love hurts a lot, and these books reassures us of that crazy stupid love. And it's just something that you need from time to time just to get away from your mind and from everything that's happening in the world. So I would highly recommend that. That's my top book so far. That was even better for me than The Scent Keeper. It was a book that I recommended to a friend. I cried every single time I read the book, and I had knots on my throat every time I was reading it. She didn't, though. She felt sad and she felt the knot on her throat, but she didn't cry. So I guess it has to be with what you have gone through. If you have gone through a painful relationship that broke you in a way, then you can relate to this feeling. It doesn't have to be that you lost someone that died. It has to be that you lost someone, period, and the grief that comes with it. It's beautiful. You if you read it and you like it, please let me know that you read it. You can write to me on Instagram because I truly adore it. Then one of my favorite writers, Richelle Mead, she writes beautiful books like the ones that are like Twilight, vampires, sort of historic novels with a twist or with something that's fantasy and stuff like that. She writes this series, what is it called? The Glittering Court. And then I was reading all the books throughout the years, and then she released the last one. It's called The Emerald Sea, and I had to read it. It was a great read. It was an easy read. It's not a deep book, but it's an easy read and a nice read. I love the way she writes. I love the passion that she puts into her books, and how even when she does young adult dramas and romance and stuff like that, it's heavy in a way. You can feel like the sensations and the feelings and the wanting of someone else in her books. And I love books that are like that. Some books are so distant that you can never relate to the characters. Bad writers, I guess, but she's amazing and I truly love her. And she wrote my favorite series, which is the Georgina Kincaid saga. For me, that's the best love story I've ever read because of the way she creates the characters and then the way the story ends, that I wasn't expecting it to end that way, and that it blew my mind. I've read those books 3 times already, all of them, the 6 of them, and I could read them time after time. I love them. Another book is Untamed by Glennon Doyle. These are the April books. And Untamed was really nice. Untamed was something that I wouldn't have purchased. And it opens my mind to a lot of things. When we grow up with a lot of misconceptions about how we should be as women, how we should be as, well, different races, different sexualities and orientations. So when you read Untamed, it helps you just get rid of all this baggage that was put into your mind. I have no issue with races. I truly don't get that in the US, that what happens in the US, it blows my mind. Because here in my country, thankfully, I grew up in a place where we're basically the same skin. We don't treat people different because of their skin tone. Never. We're all the same. I guess because we don't have a complex of feeling superior and being a pure race or something crazy like that. I don't know where racism comes from. And when I lived there, it hit me because I remember I was a waitress, and then a guy, this white guy, and I look, right now I have fake tan, but I look really light. So it doesn't have to be with the skin. It doesn't have to be with you being dark. It has to be with you not being something that they want you to be. Because I remember being waitress in a table, and then this guy was so rude to me, and he would speak to me as if I had mental issues and if my mind wasn't truly developed. And he would tell me to bring him water in a way. I was speaking English. I speak English clearly. And then he would tell me agua, agua, like, but it was in a way that he meant it. He meant to be rude, as if I was stupid. And then he told me something that, as if he was implying that I couldn't speak the language and that I shouldn't be there. I don't take time to answer to those people. I told him that I speak English, you can speak to me in English, but it's something that hit me when I went to the US. I never experienced that here. I was also working with a friend that was Jamaican. So she was dark and she was the best person in the workplace with another person that she's white. But they were both beautiful people, and we would hang out. She would teach me stuff how to cook, but chicken, I remember. I don't know how to cook for my life. I cook like hell. And she went to my house at some point and she was teaching me how to make chicken the Jamaican way, and we went to purchase Jamaican pastries and stuff. We would spend a lot of time together, and for me it was just normal. And then there was this guy in our workplace that would treat her so bad. So I would tell him, because my tongue, like my mom says, I could wrap myself around with my tongue. I would tell him, you need to stop that. You shouldn't be doing that. But he was supported by the managers and stuff from the place, because you can see how they treat people differently. You can see it, whether they were Cuban or Jamaican or American and they were dark skin, or whether you're too Latin or too Chinese or too Asian or too, it's not only black and white, it's every single type of race that there's out there. In the US, they see race for sure. They see it and they judge you depending on your color, your accent, your background, in a way that I never noticed here when I was growing up. So it's something sad. So I don't know where I was going. Oh, Untamed, she talks about racism and how we don't get it. I don't like to talk about racism because maybe the terms, when I translate them from Spanish to English, maybe I'm hurting someone's feeling. And I don't want to do that, because it's truly because it's truly something that I will never want to do. I will never want to hurt anyone, since I don't have that on my system. It's something that we don't really go through here in Colombia. So Untamed opened up my mind and gave me strength as a woman, and gave me sort of an open mind to see also sexuality. So the book is a memoir, and the writer, she's gay, and it's about her story, her love story, and it's just about how women shouldn't be tamed, and it talks about a lot of things. So I would highly recommend it, because it truly opens up your mind. It truly does. So yeah, I would truly recommend it. Okay, I have a few more books and we'll be done. When I finished The Two Lives of Lydia Bird, I wanted to read another book that was really heartfelt. So I went to search and put something that will show me related books or similar books to that one. And then I came across In 5 Years by Rebecca Searle. I loved it. I truly did. I cried as well. Those books that break my heart are basically my favorite. It's about a story of a woman that she plans for everything, and then she has a plan 5 years from now. And then one night, she has a glimpse of being with another guy and having sex with another guy. And then that guy was not the guy that she was living with. And that guy that she was living with was part of her 5 to 10 year plan. It was part of her forever plan. She wouldn't picture life without him at that point. And then the book turns around in a way that you wouldn't imagine. And I will not spoil it for you. But this is a wonderful book, because the book goes through the 5 years until she reaches that point and that scene. And she knows that it means something that it's mind-blowing. You have to read it. I'm not going to spoil it for you. So that's also a heartbreaking book, but in a different way than The Two Lives of Lydia Bird was. Then Such a Fun Age is by Kylie Reed, and this is also a book That's about a nanny that's black and she's taking care of white kids. And the mother, she has a white husband, white kids. Her older daughter, she's 3 years old, and she's the cutest 3-year-old of life. And her best friend is her nanny, and she loves her. They're both each other favorite person, and this gets close to home because my nanny, she still works with my mom, and she's with my mom since I was 1 month old. So she's like my mother too. So I'm blessed because I have two moms. And then she also has two daughters, and I call them my sisters. They're my sisters because we grew up together. They're little. No, they're not little. They're younger than me, but we grew up together and they call me hermanita, sister. So it's something that hit close to home because they had a close relationship even when she was 3 years old and this girl was 24, 25 years old. And then racism is happening surrounding the story or in the story, but it's the type of racism that I hear often talked about. That's when you don't know that you're being racist. For me, it's obvious because, like I said, we don't do racism here in Colombia. At least I didn't grow up with it. I didn't grow up with it surrounding me. And when you see it in the book, it's clear that there's racist behavior, and then the way she's handling it, the girl, the hero of the book, the main character of the book, the way she's handling it and seeing it, she sometimes doesn't see it and misses it, and then sometimes at the end of the book she realizes all the racism surrounding the story and a lot of things that were not racism that people assumed that were also. So it's also an eye-opening book since me not growing up in the US, it makes it harder for me to understand how some people talk or see bad in everything or see good in everything. For me, it's hard. It's not easy to understand. I'm just being honest. And then seeing it from that point of view, seeing it in books, it helps me notice it more. It helps me be able to say, stop it, you shouldn't be doing this. Stop it, you shouldn't be saying this. And then it truly, even here in Colombia, changes the way we say things. Because even though we grew up differently and we are basically all the same, I don't ever wanna come across as racist when someone else comes to see me or see us as a country. I don't want anyone to ever feel like I felt in the US or like a lot of people nowadays every day feel in the US. So yeah, so it's a good book. It's a good book when you wanna truly get into it, and maybe you didn't grow up in the US either, so you don't understand a lot of the things. Now I do because I lived there for ages. I lived there for 7 years, and for me that was enough for sure. But not enough that I don't want to go back, enough to notice and enough to see. But you never get to fully know everything. So every time you see something like this book, you keep learning, and you keep learning in different ways because they always show different perspectives. And I guess that the writers make it so that you understand it from their perspective, and that's also really nice. Then I read The Henna Artist, and this is by Alka Joshi. And to be honest, I love this book. I found that everything that has to do with Indian culture, it traps me. Because last year I read a book, I don't remember the names, The Sisterhood of the Shangri-La Sisters or something like that. And then that same writer wrote another book, the Sex Stories of something. I don't remember, truly remember, but those books were amazing. I love the way people talk in different accents, like I said. I also love to get into different cultures and then just understanding them. And then even though we didn't share the same beliefs, whether you grew up in the US, I grew up in Colombia, and they grew up in India, it's completely different. And the way they love, the way they get married, the way things get done that are really unfair because of the class system or the caste system. I don't actually remember how you say it in English, even though I read all these books in English. I never read in Spanish. But it's just something to keep in mind as well, because we're different, but we're the same. We just grew up in different circumstances and with different beliefs and stuff. So it's really nice, and it was really fun, and it was heart-wrenching sometimes, but it was really a book to learn about other cultures. Then I read two books, and I ate them, by Beth O'Leary. I read The Flat Share and I read The Switch. I would recommend them both. I love them both. The Flat Share is more of a love story, and then The Switch surprised me a lot because I didn't know if I was gonna like it. I love the writer when I read The Flat Share, but when I read The Switch, there is this old lady and then her granddaughter, and it's about how they switch places. They say like, okay, you come live in my small town and I go and live in London, and then we can switch lives for a little bit because they're both going through death in the family, and it's just truly wonderful. And the character that I love the most, I thought it was gonna be the young person because I could relate to her, but it was not. It was the grandma. It was so beautiful and so well written that I really liked it, and I liked Beth O'Leary a lot. I would highly recommend her, and I would read all of her books from now on. Everyone was saying in the comments of the books that she was the new Jojo Moyes, and she's amazing, and the way she writes is really wonderful. So those are the books that I've read this year. So far, a lot of them. I don't know if you guys are gonna love this video, but if you do, every 5 books I could do an update and let you guys know what I've been reading and my thoughts on them. I truly hope that nobody gets offended by me talking about racism. I know what happened with George Floyd. I don't want to feel like I can't mention his name because that shouldn't be it. We all should talk about it more. I've been posting on it every morning. As soon as I wake up, I post it in my stories. I sign a petition. I think we all should do that. It's not fair what happened, and it's not fair the result of the process. It wasn't a due process by any means. It wasn't fair at all, and I think we shouldn't be quiet. We should never be quiet about this. We should never be quiet about love, and we should never be quiet about hate, and we should never let anyone treat another person that way. Never. It doesn't matter if we get shot. We shouldn't allow someone to hurt a person like they did. It's just something that, like I said, when you don't grow up there, it blows your mind even more. You don't understand how that happens in a country that's supposedly so advanced, because we're a third world country. That's what we're called here in Colombia. We're a third world country. So for that to be happening in a first world country, it blows my mind. So we shouldn't be quiet. If you're an American citizen, and if you're not, you shouldn't be quiet. You should be posting about it. You should be talking about it. You should be calling whoever you need to be calling to make sure that your voice is heard, because it's not okay. So that's it for this video, you guys. I didn't want to end in a heavy note, but it is what it is. We have to speak about these things. And before we go, the emoji for today, it will be something about books, and then it can also be something, you guys, it can also be something about Black Lives Matter. So if you leave that hashtag below, I would truly appreciate it. I think it's something that it doesn't have to do with comments or engagement or YouTube or anything. It needs to be seen by other people. It needs to be posted by everyone. It needs to be heard. So whatever you want to leave, either a book or a hashtag Black Lives Matter, then leave it below. I love you guys. I hope you liked this video, that it wasn't too long and it wasn't too different for you. But that's it. I guess I'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.